it looks off, it looks weird, but those kind of things happen. My recommendation for overall realism and to catch the overall balance is to Hello and welcome back, fantasy cartographers. In this episode, we are going to learn how to add rivers and lakes in a practical way. Starting with rivers, I want to show you how to make the best rivers you can ever make. So start in one coastline and finish in another. This is the best rivers you can ever make. Of course, I'm kidding. So I wanted to start with this one because even if you're a beginner, there are things, remember I told you don't be so stuck with those mistakes videos and get demotivated. But this doesn't mean that I want you to practice something in the wrong way and turn that to a habit. Because in the future it will be more difficult to fix that. So for a few mistakes I commonly see, I want to mention them, not to demotivate you guys, to avoid that becoming a habit, because these are very big mistakes. What I did right now is it's not a river. It would be a canal, because rivers technically should start from high elevations and end up in seas, move from high to low lands. If I have a river starting from one sea ending up to another sea, that means the water literally rises from the land and goes down and finds the other sea. And we all know that this is not possible. If you already did this mistake, don't feel bad. It is okay to make mistakes, like it's completely fine, but just fix it and stop doing it unless you want to make an actual canal. And for that, I would recommend not using the river tool. I would recommend to do it when you are making the coastlines, or add it later on using the coastline tools. Maybe you can do it like this, etc. Because the coastlines are matching right now, we can see it's a part of the sea. This one looks more like a river. Just a tip if you want to make canals. I really don't like these kind of rivers, guys. So I can suggest you to try a few things and remember a few things. So the first thing to remember, all the way to the beginning, the setting and the scale of this map. Because this is a small scale and because this is a fixed setting. So if it was, for example, desert, I should already know that I don't need so many rivers. So determining those, as I mentioned before, will help you in every step. So right now, because I want to make a simple place and I don't want to get lost in so many details, I know that I also shouldn't add so many rivers. If I wanted to make a very big map showcasing all the details on a small region, I could add so many rivers that plays a role in my story, or that are crucial for the description parts of my story. When the party going somewhere, they're crossing the bridge, but there's no river on the map, so where are they crossing? To get the consistency. So for my map here, I'm going to keep it simple. I'm just going to add a few rivers, and to show you how you can get some variety, I will make one of them quite smooth and the other ones are going to be a bit rougher. So you should also play with those. For example, here there's not much distance between the mountains and the coastline, so most probably the river is not going to be able to get smoothened and go through very long distances. It can be, if this place is completely flattened, it's possible, but in general, I'm going with now a more rough river here, just trying to find its fastest way down and following it to get rid of this shade here. And maybe I can do one more river here that feeds it, which is slightly thinner. It's a feeding arm. And because of this, now I want to mention another thing. Remember, guys, the rivers also don't do this. The rivers do the opposite. They don't separate. Your common rivers, your general rivers should do the opposite. They should combine, they should unite and meet in the sea. So this is the actual river shape, not this one. The separation can happen on deltas. This is how the deltas work. Or it can very rarely separate, like 1% of the time, maybe even less than that. And even if it's a big river, it can separate. A reason to separate that humans affect. They separated it for distributing the water to their farmlands, etc. for any reason, or they separated it to cut the river source of the enemy territories, etc. If you want to apply those kind of world building backgrounds, yes, you can add more separated rivers, but please, if it's random, don't have so many separated rivers. So coming back to adding them, I'm gonna remove the roughness here, add one here, another one here, and maybe a thinner one can come from here and feed this. Yeah, this looks nice, can work. Maybe I can also add like one or two here and here. Yeah, I think I overall like this now. Also remember, if you start with mountains or where you think the location is higher to make rivers, it's gonna look nicer. A river starting at this point, going up the mountains and coming back, it also exists, but rare. It looks off, it looks weird, but those kind of things happen due to the geography being extremely carved and variation, it's all there. Yes, it's possible, but again, this also shouldn't be what you're doing in general. You can apply this idea when you are making a river, and then instead of just directly going to the sea, you can maybe make a few returns back to the mountains and then continue. Then you're maximizing the outcome of this knowledge and applying it to your map. What this also tells me right now for my next steps, I have more river on the south part of the map, which technically should match with my climates. Potentially I'm going to have more water here, more rains here, so I can apply this knowledge to my coloring, to my plannings of biome, and the same thing goes for now adding lakes, which is the next step that we will have to add waters to our map, fresh waters. So I can have a lake here, that's completely fine, but probably I will have more lakes on the downside where I have more rivers. And also about lakes, they most of the times have a river that feeds them in an arm that takes back the water from the lake. If you know the exact terminology for this, please comment so everybody learns it. Sometimes they have multiple rivers coming and one leaving, and sometimes it's the opposite, one coming and a few leaving, but that is also rarer compared to the previous two examples. So right now I'm gonna have one lake here, or maybe here, that showcases one of those examples, two rivers feeding it and one river coming out from the lake, and another one, let's add, or no, not there, maybe somewhere here. Okay, I like it. Sometimes you don't see that. Sometimes a river comes, the lake loses its water, slowly moving down in earth and mixing with those underground waters. So you don't see on the surface a water that leaves the lake. That doesn't mean the lake is not losing the water. We have that option. And we also have sometimes lakes that are being fed by a river, but they don't have any river that leaves. The lake loses the water with evaporation, so it doesn't keep growing and becoming bigger. Or sometimes the lake is used by humans to continuously get water and stuff. So the water is actually cycling, but you don't see a river coming out. What would be the difference if we have two lakes, one that has fresh cycle and the other doesn't? The one that has a fresh cycle would have a different biome. The other one would get saltier. It may not be even drinkable at some point, especially if the metals kept summing up there. You can have like where there is literally no income and no outcome. No. In these cases, the lake might be fed by lots of rain directly falling on that spot, or underground rivers might be feeding the lake and leaving the lake. Anyway, end of the geography lesson for today. So yeah, this is how you can make rivers, guys. So all of these are possible. My recommendation for overall realism and to catch the overall balance is to stick with these two, but having those kind of different lakes where you have no river coming out of it, or where you don't see any river feeding it or leaving it, it will actually add realism and good color, good beauty if you do it very, very limited, like just one or two times, not like on every story, on every map, on every region. In that case, you will lose that magic, my friend. You can also sometimes have rivers that are like, you know, like so bendy. These kind of things happen when the elevation is so low and the river keeps like running around to find a lower elevation, or sometimes the river feeds the land in front of it by the carriage, by the materials that it carries, and gets stuck there and just finds another way, and that creates those continuous curves. So remember that also, especially if you want to make deltas. This is how you add rivers and lakes. Don't do coast to coast. Remember the types of lakes and rivers you can make and the combinations. Please comment, give me some feedbacks, add information. Remembering that we are trying to keep this beginner friendly. Don't get frustrated by the amount of information we are trying to put in here. We are going step by step. So it's the whole process is not frustrating. So I hope this is helping you, and I hope this is motivating you to make good maps. Please also sub and give me some love and support, guys. See you on the next video where we are going to add some forest star map. Bye.